This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Ooh. I mean... Hello and welcome to the first episode of the Intuitive Eating series. I'm very excited to get this started. It's been a long time since I've been wanting to film this, and we're doing it now. I think I shall put you up there. Now I can just sit and chat your ear off. I have so much to say. But before we get started into what intuitive eating is and what diet culture is and all of that, a wonderful tool to keep in mind throughout this entire process and throughout life is to practice radical self-compassion. Anger towards diet culture can be very useful, and it can ignite some sort of power to commit to heal. But feeling anger towards yourself, less useful. You must remember that you're going against a billion-dollar industry that knows exactly how to exploit your every insecurity in order to make money off of you. Also, beating yourself up will make it less likely to stick to any goal, even if the goal or the intention is to heal. I love what Dr. Kristen Neff has to say about self-compassion and the 3 elements that make up self-compassion. The first one being practicing self-kindness over self-judgment, meaning that in times where you feel inadequate, frustrated, whatever it is, you treat yourself with kindness, with an open mind, and you treat yourself usually how you would treat other friends if they came to you with issues, rather than being self-critical. The second one is realizing our common humanity. It's very easy to get stuck in this cycle of thought that we are alone in all of our suffering, and remembering that, again, being imperfect and falling short and feeling disappointment are very common emotions that all humans experience to different degrees. The last one is trying to practice mindfulness rather than over-identification with whatever problem or feeling that you're feeling, and being able to reach kind of a neutral point to put those emotions. Of course, this is not to suppress any of your feelings. It's more so to just be aware of all of them. In the end, they're all fleeting. They will all pass. You are not your thoughts, you're not your problems, you're not the sadness that you feel at times. That is not you. So being able to just look at those things mindfully, and then hopefully with time being able to let them go. Oh, okay. So what even is diet culture to begin with? Well, put very simply, it is a system of beliefs that glorifies thinness and equates health and body size to moral value. It also, of course, demonizes a million different foods and food groups, and really what it's trying to do is promote weight loss as a way of attaining more value in society. It also oppresses anyone who doesn't match its very extremely narrow version of what health is meant to look like. I think what makes diet culture now more insidious and just more annoying is the fact that it has rebranded into wellness and the wellness industry because, you know, it knows how to market itself. So before, in the 90s, it was quite easy to know whether you were on a diet or whether you weren't on a diet because the diets were so ludicrous, things like just eating grapefruit or whatever the hell. But now it starts very innocently. It starts with wanting to be a little bit healthier, with wanting to move a little bit more, with maybe cutting out one food, and then you start cutting out another one, and then suddenly you're so wrapped up in it without even realizing that you find yourself in a moment of complete stress trying to figure out what to eat and what not to eat. So my reminder before we continue on with the video is that if eating healthy is causing you stress and anxiety, it's probably not healthy. I wish I heard that many years ago. I just wanted to give a huge thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. You know how much I love them, and I truly believe that if you are in need of a new website or in need of a little bit of help to get your online business off the ground, that Squarespace is the place for you. They offer so many different blogging tools that make it really easy and aesthetically pleasing to share the content that you want to share. You can also create these little member areas to create gated content like videos, online classes, newsletters that only members can access, and with the scheduling feature, it can be very easy for your customers and your clients to see your availability, and they can book their own online classes, their own appointments, their own reservations. And I just think that Squarespace takes out all of the stress that comes with creating your own online business, which means that you can focus on the things that you potentially really enjoy doing, like creating content and creating value for your audience. So if this sounds like you, head over to squarespace.com for a free trial. And once you're ready to launch, you can head over to squarespace.com/Nina Montagnier and get 10% off of your website or domain. Thank you, Squarespace. Okay, back to the video. What even is intuitive eating, and can I be an intuitive eater? And first, absolutely yes, everyone can be an intuitive eater, because intuitive eating is simply coming back to the way that we were born to eat before everything got in the way of that. Intuitive eating is getting back to the simplicity, to the pleasure, and to the peace of eating. We will go through all of the principles in the next few videos. It is a whole process. It is not a diet. And these principles are not rules. They are simply principles to help guide you towards a peaceful relationship with food. The problem is that I think intuitive eating, especially through social media, gets quite diluted, and people claim that they're intuitive eaters or that they eat intuitively without really understanding what intuitive eating actually is. It's not the mindful eating diet. It's not the hunger and fullness diet. A lot of intuitive eating at the beginning is about going against your intuition, because if you're in the middle of dealing with a poor relationship with food, you will know that your intuition will tell you to do otherwise, because that's what you've trained yourself to do. Having to go through the first 3 principles were the absolute hardest, and as I've said before, and I will continue to say, it is a process. There is no hard and fast rules. This is not another diet. Diets require you to be perfect every single time. This is understanding that you will move forward and then you will potentially move 10 steps back, and that this is very normal. And for every person, intuitive eating, or the process of getting to a peaceful relationship with food, will look extremely different. It is also very dependent on how willing you are to commit to healing your relationship with food. And this is the perfect time to ask yourself if you need support. It is very difficult, and no one should go through it alone. I do understand that hiring an anti-diet registered dietitian isn't accessible to everybody, but of course, if it is accessible to you and if it is something that you can do, please get the support that you need. So the common misconceptions of intuitive eating, there are so many of them. Potentially the one that I hear the most is that I'm either born an intuitive eater or I'm not. And this comes, of course, from diet culture that has implanted it into our brains that in order to be healthy and happy, we have to constantly be self-monitoring. And also that there are some people out there that have some special quality, and that I have a negative attribute that leads me to always eat more than I should, and that makes me addicted to food. And this is how I truly felt. This is how I felt, especially around friends that had never dieted before and would just allow themselves to eat whatever they wanted. In my head, that was for them, and I had to always be conscious of what I was eating and set some very rigid rules. The other misconception I hear all the time is that intuitive eating is only about instinct. There are so many more reasons to eat that have nothing to do with your instinct. There are practical reasons that you would eat, there are emotional reasons that you would eat, there are logical reasons that you would eat that don't have to do with feeling hungry. Of course, listening to your body and being aware of your hunger cues is part of eating intuitively, but it's not the only part of eating intuitively. And we will go through all of this in the next video. I think the one that grinds my gears the most is this one, is the fact that if you were to become an intuitive eater, all you would eat would be pizzas and donuts for the rest of your life. and therefore you must follow this other diet because we wouldn't want you to be unhealthy. And again, this is all about diet culture making it seem that we cannot trust ourselves. We cannot trust ourselves with decisions that have to do with food. And it is very sad to me that people do think that if they were to just allow themselves to eat whatever they want, that for the rest of your life you'd just eat donuts. Part of eating intuitively is allowing yourself to eat all foods, obviously unless you have an allergy of some sort. And part of eating intuitively is also listening to your body. Also, there's this thing called habituation. When you eat a food enough, as in you remove the pedestal it's been sitting on, let's say donuts. Let's say you've never allowed yourself to eat donuts, only on a cheat day once every 3 months. You've put that food on a pedestal. There are a lot of charged emotions around that food. Once you allow yourself to eat that food, when you start breaking food rules for a certain amount of time, you'll potentially only want to eat donuts. However, because of habituation, those feelings and charged emotions and that pedestal will be removed from the donut because your body and brain will understand that donuts are always available to you, and therefore one day donuts won't seem as exciting. They'll just be another yummy food that you will have whenever you feel like having, but there won't be that feeling of I must have every single donut I feel, because you're not in scarcity anymore, and because you have habituated that food. You have eaten it enough, you had gone through the process of allowing it, and suddenly it's just a donut. The other common misconception is that intuitive eating is a way to lose weight, which again, not true. Intuitive eating is not a diet, and it has nothing to do with weight loss. In fact, it tells you right from the beginning that if you really want to commit to healing your relationship with food, you must let go of the idea of weight loss and put weight loss on the back burner, because until you do, everything that you go through and every principle that you go through will be through the lens of losing weight, which is just goes against intuitive eating. And potentially that is one of the hardest things for people to hear and for people to actually commit to. I think it's important to realize that weight loss is not just some sort of vain pursuit. With losing weight and residing in a smaller body comes many benefits. First of all, people in smaller bodies just are allowed to exist in the world. The world is built for people with smaller bodies, so it would make sense to always want to lose weight. You will face less discrimination, less oppression. So when you put weight loss on the back burner, it's not that you're putting your vanity on the back burner. There's so much more, and therefore it makes it really difficult to do. Again, this is a perfect moment to practice radical self-compassion and to understand that if coming to terms with that notion takes a little bit of time, that is totally part of the process, and it is very normal and very understandable. The issue is quite complex, and therefore healing your relationship with food might seem very difficult, but I promise you that it is very doable, especially if you can get the support that you need. So now, 3 things that you can do to start heading in the right direction when it comes to healing your relationship with food. Of course, the first thing I would say is go get yourself the book, the Intuitive Eating book. I know it can be a little bit dense. This is why I'm making this video series, because I know a lot of people have bought it and they haven't really gone through the entire thing. It can be a lot to take in, but I would suggest you just put it on your nightstand or just have it in your house, because I know that one day you'll look at it and you'll think, oh my goodness, today is the day, and you'll pick it up and it'll be there for you. The second thing I would say is go on your social media and make sure to unfollow or mute anyone who makes you feel like you need to change something about yourself. If that means you must unfollow me, please do. Anyone that you followed because you want to look like them, unfollow. Unfollow. Maybe in a different frame of mind, you can then unmute and follow again. Obviously your prerogative. And maybe replace some of those with anti-diet registered dietitians. One of the great things about the internet is that, of course, many of these registered dietitians understand that not everybody has access to join a coaching program or work with them, and so a lot of these people share very valuable information, and it can act as support and it can act as a reminder to keep to it, that it is possible, and that you deserve to feel at peace with food, you deserve to eat, you deserve to be joyful, you deserve to feel good about yourself, you deserve to feel good in your body. These are reminders that are very necessary, especially going through the first few principles, which can be very difficult. Lastly, 2 exercises. Take out your journal, and the first one is to write 5 things that you would think that would come from having a peaceful relationship with food. Maybe 5 different scenarios in which you can imagine would happen if you didn't feel stressed about food. So maybe it's, you know, going out for dinner with your friends on a random Wednesday on a day that isn't designated as your cheat day. And maybe after that lovely meal that you have, you do not go home and feel guilty about it. Maybe that's one of the scenarios. A lot of these scenarios will also remind you that of the joy that you could feel if you had a more peaceful relationship with food. The next exercise is to think of all the ways that you've been holding yourself back by believing that being thinner will equate all your problems being gone. That suddenly when you reach a certain weight, you will become happier, you will land your dream job, whatever it is. So now what I want you to do is write a list of things that bring you pleasure and joy that you can do today, that you can do this week, or that you can do this month. A lot of these things can be available to you right now. The thing that we want to remember is that we don't have to love every inch of our body in order to live our lives or in order to respect ourselves. So making a list of these pleasures, of these joys, is a great way to make yourself aware that those things are not dependent on the size of your body, and that you deserve respect, you deserve love, no matter how you feel about yourself. And yeah, those are those exercises. I forgot to outro the video, and now it's a completely different season. I'm in a turtleneck and there is no continuity, but we all know that continuity is not my strongest suit, and that's okay. I hope that you enjoyed the video. I quickly wanted to say that with this exercise of writing down the things that you've been holding back because you think that you need to be a certain weight in order to do them, yes, write a list of pleasures. That is a great reminder that joy is accessible at whatever weight. But also, why not write a few first steps that you can take now, can take this week, can take this month, in order to start getting closer to those goals? Or because some of those things are, you know, they're really silly. At least for me, I remember for the longest time I really wanted to cut all my hair off. But I thought I had to be at a certain weight in order to cut all my hair off. And one day, because it was part of the list of things that I had written down, one day I looked at it, I was like, you know what, screw it, I'm gonna do it. And I did it, and it was fine. And so there's many little things like that that kind of stop us from living our lives fully, or from doing the things that we want to do. And sometimes it's just doing the thing. Other times there are a few steps in between yourself right now and the goal that you want to achieve, and that's fine. But what about trying to do at least one thing a week that can bring you closer to something that you know will bring you great joy and happiness and a feeling of fulfillment? Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I will have the second episode coming up very soon, where we go through all the principles. And yes, I hope that you are well. I send you the biggest of hugs, and go eat something really yummy today. Go get your favorite takeaway, or make something delicious, or go out for dessert with a friend. I think that should also be part of the things that you can do right now. And that is all. I will see you very soon. Lots of love. Ciao ciao. We'll meet each other next week.